All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Board of Advisors podcast. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Bobby Tinsley. Bobby is founder, owner, innovator, visionary of a product platform and company called SKUX, SKUX.io. Welcome to the show, Bobby. How are we doing today, buddy?
Doing well. Thank you for having me, Mike.
Tell me a little bit before we get started here about you, about the family. You know, you have a great wife. Just give me a little background on you and what that looks like, and then we'll dive into a little bit of the story and how we got to where we are today, because it's a beautiful story of great people coming together, building a great company, and really a fantastic product and service going into the future of what we believe is digital payments. But let's start with you. Give me a little background on you, buddy.
Sure. So, started my career, hence some records behind me. Very non-traditional path into payments, right? So, started my career in the music industry. The short version of the story is I was very blessed to get a record deal out of high school. Met my childhood idol on an elevator in Nashville, Tennessee, a gentleman by the name of BB Winans. So, for anyone who follows
Oh,
gospel
wow.
music,
Wow, that's crazy.
BB and CC Winans, legendary gospel family, was able to meet BB by just really promoting and putting myself out there. I was actually in Nashville at the time promoting an indie record that ended up charting top 40 in the Christian music industry. Before it charted, I was out there hustling and I ended up meeting BB. And the story goes like this. I had a CD in my hand. He was in the middle of talking to two individuals. God knows what they were talking about, but it looked like they were deep in conversation. I spotted him across the room with my manager, and he's like, "That's BB Winans." And I just took my business card at the time, and I took my CD, interrupted his conversation. He was very gracious. I said, "Mr. Winans, I've listened to your music my entire life. I would be so honored for you to listen to my CD because I wrote this, I produced it, and a lot of it was inspired by great artists like you." He was great. And this was still physical CDs, so it's kind of funny how times have changed. But anyway, handed it to him. I walked back to my manager, and I was like, "That was really cool." I get a call 15 minutes later from the number that was on my business card. He was in a hotel in Nashville, so you got to kind of paint some context here. The gospel music industry used to host the GMA week, and it was kind of like the event, the spot to be at for Christian music, and so everything happened at this one hotel. And so
What
back
hotel was
then,
that?
it was right over by the Grand Old Opry and kind of everything.
Okay.
And I can't remember what the brand was on the hotel, but it's like the spot where everybody was intersecting in between the actual award show and
Mm-hmm.
then all of the different events that go around it, which is really just the Christian music record industry. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
label events, a lot of new artist showcases. That's why I was there. I was
So
actually
you
playing a
were in
new
the
artist
middle of
show.
it all.
I was in the middle of it all, and we were going in and out, and I had lots of CDs because I was selling CDs. We were promoting merch, and so BB had taken my CD and went back up to his hotel room and put it on the CD player in his hotel room, and he got through three tracks, and he called me. He said, "Who's this young man that just gave me this CD?" It's like if you know BB, he's got this very big personality. You need
Yeah.
to know. I said, "Mr. Winans, where are you?" He's like, "Meet me back downstairs." And that night, literally, I was in his house on his baby grand piano, harmonizing with my childhood idol, and the rest was history. So
That's
it was
wild.
really cool. I had a great run. God opened up so many doors. We were, of course, independent artists. So I had an imprint deal underneath label distribution. So I was able to sell my own records, own my own production company, put out content, monetizing myself. I've always been an entrepreneur. Music was just one vehicle. So yeah, so I did that, did it for over a decade full time. Met my wife along the way. I've been married for 15 years. You mentioned my beautiful wife, Jessica Tinsley. And she really met me in the journey of kind of coming off of music full time and moving more into a lot of other things, whether it be other business opportunities, other investments. And that's really where the journey of SKUX started. I started transitioning out of music because music changed so much. We weren't selling CDs anymore. We were selling digital,
Everything
right?
went
And I
digital.
saw
Then it was about distribution.
everything went
Yeah.
digital. Yeah. Yeah, and I saw the physical world transition to digital, and that was a big piece. We'll come back to that with SKUX, but like where you used to sell CDs, now you stream on Napster. Now you go to MySpace. Now you can build a direct connection to a.
Let's actually get a little bit of wisdom from you on that. When you saw music go from physical to digital, because that's kind of what's happening now. But tell me
Yeah.
about that transition, because that was fairly disruptive. Things went from basically paying for them in the store to almost being free, if not free, and then, it was very disruptive. So give me a little bit of your insights on that then, because I think we're going to dive into it later on what's going on now.
Yeah, I mean, let me just keep it real. I mean, the record industry at that time controlled all of the gates. So if you didn't have a major deal, it was really hard to create the music that you wanted to create, get it out to the masses
Right.
without going that traditional label model, and you sell your soul, all intents and purposes, to do that, whether financially or just
Morally.
spiritually, or the
Yeah.
way that you don't want to do the
Sure.
type of art stuff that you were doing. My blessing was I was a writer, I was a producer, I built my own studio before I ever got a record deal. Like I knew how to create content at the level of the major labels or right under it because the technology has gotten so good over the years that it's become easier and easier to do that. And so
Mm.
I really honed my craft on production. And so I built this studio and I built my own production facility and I was printing my own CDs and I built a distribution channel with the label. And so I owned all of it. And so what I always tell people is like, I have a great following all around the world of people who follow my music, and we sold, lots and lots of albums over the years relative to my production company and what we did. But like, we were doing nothing that
So
major
you
artists would
had
do.
right
But I
down to your own label. You had your own platform basically for
I
your
had my
own
own
music.
I had my own platform because we could go direct to that customer before digital and before MySpace and Napster and all that stuff happened. But the thing that I always tell people is like we owned it.
Hmm.
So no matter if I sold one or 100 or 1,000, it didn't matter. It was mine, as opposed to the record companies really owning everything on behalf of these artists, giving them advances, and then they own their lives basically moving forward. And it's all about having that one hit that can keep the train going. And so, like for me, the lesson was when MySpace, Napster, but then into really what MySpace did is it democratized music distribution and fan building. Like we were able to go out and build a fan base directly to all of my fans. I didn't have to go through a label. And then through
Hmm.
MP3s and music and digital distribution, I didn't have to physically sell CDs. So people could get exposed to my music. And then we could go book a show, and then I could go to that show, and I could have 1,000 people in the audience, and I could sell my own CDs, pocket the money, sell my own shirts, sell my own merch, and do really, really well for myself with no boss called a major label looking over my shoulder. And
Hmm.
that mindset, like, I'll never forget, there was a well known artist at the time that was signed to a well known label. My manager actually co managed on that label. And I remember we were doing a show in, I think we were in Bristol, Tennessee, and they pulled up in their tour bus. And the girl that I was dating at the time, this artist was actually trying to impress her the fact that like come check out this tour bus. This was actually Prince's tour bus. He was just on there. It's not his tour bus. The label's paying
Of
for it. He
course.
owns that on it. But
Yeah.
he felt really good showing up at the same show that I was at, bragging that he's on this tour bus. I showed up in my whatever car I had at the time. Like, but I sold my own CDs. I owned my own rights. I didn't have anyone telling me what to do. I was free. And that is the mindset of entrepreneurship. You know this, Mike. The definition of success, the definition of wealth is freedom. And so, it didn't matter what scale that was on. We built more scale over the years with it. It was about being at the principal core
Well,
of the
everybody
community.
wants to be an investor. If you run the model that you're describing here, every day you're laying a brick in your own life, right? Like you're
Yeah.
investing in yourself. Now, there's one thing to be kind of a slave to the system, but there's another thing to where sometimes it takes more than one person to get the dream accomplished, right? So,
Yeah.
doing everything by yourself too can also be extremely challenging, and many times
Yeah.
it might not get you where you really want to go. But there's a delicate balance there of being the owner, founder, starting something great, and then enrolling the
Yeah.
right people into it, which is what you actually did very, very well with SKUX. So the genesis of Bobby, you understood that you wanted to be in control of kind of your time, energy, product. Once you transitioned out of music, what was the next thing? Because where we met was a starting point of that SKUX product and brand. But what was the time between, if we could do that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, you dropped, I don't know if everybody would catch it. You dropped some real wisdom and nuggets on it's that in between because being a solo entrepreneur, while sounds great, can also be in its own self very challenging because you don't have that infrastructure, that support system. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's always finding a bridge between two worlds where you can have this side, but also have that side, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think like as I grew my music career, I built a lot of relationships in television and film. I signed a deal that still gave me flexibility to be able to still be me, but
Mm-hmm.
have access to bigger ecosystems, be able to do, the Grammys and the American Music Awards and do those types of events and be in those places I needed to be to grow my career and my production company, but still maintain, that balance. And so I was always in between two worlds. I mean, I was doing R&B music for the Christian music industry and charting before that was even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now the world does that all the time, right? And so I've always been in between. And so when, I met my wife, fast forward, we've had this incredible journey. You know a lot of the story for a different day, Mike, on her health journey.
Mm-hmm.
But I was down from full-time music and I was trying to figure out what is that next move. And a lot of that was based off of many, many things and
But
many
what
different
did you?
decisions and
That's
many.
always something that I think an entrepreneur and a founder says in the back of their mind. If what I'm doing right now doesn't work, what would I do? Even if
But what
what
I
they're
did,
doing is working very well, like right now,
yeah,
even with your current project, I'm sure you're thinking, what would I do next? And there's always that next chess
no,
move that we're thinking about,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what were you thinking about at the time?
It's interesting. It's such a good question because, for me, from a music standpoint, all I ever wanted to do growing up is accomplish that thing, put out music, have people know the lyrics and sing them back to me and put art into the world. I accomplished that. I was able to make money doing it. I was able to
Mm-hmm.
build a
Mm-hmm.
career. And then the more music got about making music for money, the more I didn't love it as much. Never
Mm.
stopped loving the music,
Yeah.
but music started to become a business, hence the music business. Two words that really were
Mm-hmm.
never meant to
Mm-hmm.
go together.
Mm-hmm.
Music is pure art, business is business. Monetizing it, that's, obviously a career path, and we have to do that. So for me,
That's the
I started
adulting
looking.
part of things.
Yeah, that's exactly. What's my next path outside of this music, just based on lots of dynamics that were going on with that? And what do I love to do? And one of those first moves for me, I met some great partners in the North Carolina area at the time that had been in on this really early up and coming health club franchise. It was a very interesting business model. It was small group personal training for women. It was called Get in Shape for Women. They were expanding. They were based in Boston, but they were expanding outside. And so I partnered up with a couple great partners, and we started creating these health studios and then scaling the health studios in different states. And we just went all in on that. I had a fitness journey myself. I used to weigh, 300 pounds graduating high school before I went into music. I lost a ton of weight to really get ready to go into music. So I've always had this love for personal fitness and obviously continue to do that today, as you know. And so that was one of those next moves. Like, I'm going to put myself in a business that I love, that I know really nothing about the business element of, but I know I'm passionate about helping people achieve their fitness goals. And we built that up. And then I ended up selling out my position of that and moving more into the world of technology and the world of promotional technology because I have a DNA in promotions and being out there on the front lines and digital and blockchain and crypto and a lot of these things that were up and coming. I really started to gravitate towards and I started putting my own money into and just really growing that network of digital, crypto, blockchain, just at a personal level, just like being involved in new technologies that were coming out. And I think all of that plus obviously building a lot of relationships with a lot of other people, like my founding partners in SKUX, really connected the dots into SKUX and like
Hmm.
kind of the opportunity that what we have. And it's blending so many things that I've done over my life into kind of this moment in time where I think there's a massive shift, as you know, between the promotional world and the physical world and digital payments. And we sit in between. And I think an amazing opportunity where we are. So
Let's actually make a bold statement around SKUX, where how big it really has the potential to be, not pie in the sky, but legitimately.
yeah.
And then let's backfill that a little bit so that people understand this is something that really, it's a unicorn that we put the work in, we put the revenue in, we put the team together. You've built something great here. We'll go back and kind of fill in the details, but just give a little illustration to how big this really is.
You know, you can define big in several ways. You can define it from revenue, obviously. What kind of revenue can it generate? Which that's massive. We're talking billions of dollars in revenue that can be created and unlocked for SKUX because of digital payments and digital item level payments. So that's big. You talk about the ecosystem that we play in. We play in the retail ecosystem. We sit between the largest CPG brands in the world, like Mondelez, right? Oreo cookies, those types of customers, and merchants where you go buy those things. And we sit in between that interaction between a brand and their consumer and a redemption and a point of sale. We work with the payment networks. Visa, we just announced an agreement with Visa a few weeks back, and we have some amazing things going on the partnership front with Visa and other major payment networks, some soon to be announced. So from a big, I look at this as an impact. There's an impact opportunity where SKUX can be a foundational technology element to the retail ecosystem, empowering payments and incentives and loyalty and rewards. That is, I've never been a part of something that has this potential of transformation from a technology, from a startup perspective. I mean, I think some of the smartest minds in the world, as you know, have come and gotten involved in this company or invested in this company or been an advisor to this company. It's not just me. I love singing our praises. It's some of the most brilliant minds in the world in retail and in payments and in CPG that understand technically what we have and see this as one of the biggest opportunities in fintech. So yeah, it's big. I hate putting numbers on things because no one knows. I don't have a crystal ball. I just know that God put us here and we have some great opportunity ahead. So yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So, in your most simple phrasing, because you guys live in a very digital, techie world, just describe exactly what SKUX does as
Yeah.
consumable as
Well,
possible.
I'll describe it from the eyes of our customer because I think that's the easiest
Yeah.
way. So we have a customer, going back to the Oreos example, Mondelez International, one of the biggest CPG brands on the planet. One use case that they were struggling with. When you have a bad product experience on that package of Oreos or whatever that product is, Triscuits, there's a 1-800 number. You call that number, you get on the phone with a customer service rep that in many cases the consumer's arguing with this product's bad. And the experience before SKUX for them was sending you a physical check or coupon in the mail that took 2 to 3 weeks to get to you. And they had zero visibility into
Yeah.
where those funds are. There's tons of fraud. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that they took a bad consumer experience and only magnified it because now I'm waiting for my funds. Sometimes I don't even get my funds and they don't have any visibility into those funds. With SKUX, what they do now is that customer service rep can say, "Hey, Mike, I'm sorry for that experience. What's your email or phone number?" And within seconds, you have a digital payment on your phone that's branded for their product that you can go tap anywhere Visa's accepted. Pretty simple. That is what we do. We power digital payments for companies like Mondelez for use cases that were physical check based or voucher based or coupon based now to a digital experience. The beauty of that is I can track that for that customer from the moment that they created that reward to the moment that you got it, to the moment you download it to your wallet, to the moment you went to the store and redeemed it. The data that comes off of that helps them better run their business. It lowers cost, it drives efficiency. Also, the capabilities within the payment. We have dynamic spend controls in those payment cards. So I can create product restrictions through SKU Pay, or I can create merchant restrictions through our digital payments platform where I say, I only want this payment to work at this store on this day at this specific time. And that gives Mondelez and other companies like Mondelez complete control over that consumer experience with use cases like customer recovery or proactive marketing or promotional loyalty. That's what we do.
I like to think of it as being able to have a brand, present a product, an opportunity, some sort of incentive, pretty much anywhere where it's consumable by the eyeball or ear. And if somebody scans a QR code, it can drop that incentive right into their digital wallet to where they can spend it on their way out the door of wherever they're at into the retail store, onto the online store. I mean, realistically, it gives brands a way to connect their audience to their advertising. So ad goes up, TV, you could be at a golfing tournament and see world's best shoes, Zappos or whatever. QR code, bang, digital incentive into the wallet. You can go spend it online or in the store. I mean, it's literally connecting advertising with the audience and putting that incentive, that spendable incentive in their wallet so they can go use it like a credit card.
I just pulled up my phone. Like I got a SKUX Visa on my phone right here, right?
Dude, I need to get one of those. Just send me one of those. Send me yours.
Exactly. I mean, what you just said, so powerful. Scan a QR code, get a payment. We're all addicted to these devices. And one of the campaigns we powered recently was from major, PepsiCo new launch of their brand. They were doing a launch at the Orlando Magic Arena, scanned a QR code off the Jumbotron, got a payment in seconds, right? All the engagement of that experience, the tracking, the traceability, and even driving it to the merchant that they were partnered with, which was, racetrack gas stations at the time. Powerful. Like we can do these experiences, we can do them in real time, we can do them in a scalable, flexible way. And that's just promotions. That's just promotional activation. When you really understand the technology of payments, which I did not understand when I created this company with my partners, but fortunately, one of our, we always call him the nerdy payments founder, Kenny Douglas, he came from payments. His world has been payments. He's done partnerships with payments companies his whole career. He's done startup to exits, one of them being Dosh alongside our CTO. We were looking at promotions and we were looking at payments and we said, okay, the opportunity is to create something in between called SKUX, right? And that's
really, it kind of started with the coupon side of things too, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and coupons and promotions, my partner Jim Sampe, my other founder, he was president of Valpak. And so you want to talk about paper coupons and paper mailings. I mean, the coupon industry was his world, his background in Cox Media.
Oh, bro, my mom used to cut them out and put them in like albums and it was wild. And then we would go to the store and they would shop through the coupons looking for all the best. Buy this, get two of those, whatever it was. Yeah. But see, there's a difference there. That's a discount though. See, that's something that what you're doing is they're getting the same result, but it's not a discount and it's not going towards the bottom line until expiration. What you're doing is actually creating the payment that gives still a similar or better value, but it's not a negative and they're also not carrying it. It's transacting, it's live and transacting, and it is only counting when it is redeemed, correct?
Yeah, it's a payment. So think of it this way. That coupon's an IOU. You present that piece of paper and it gets, taken by that cashier and they put it in a bag and they put all the coupons in the bag. And at the end of the month, they ship them off a lot of times cross border to hand count them and to weigh the bag and to settle the bag. And then ultimately after 100 hands touch it between clearinghouses and third-party
Oh
providers,
my
and
God,
you
it
go
sounds
down
like
the
a
whole list,
waste of
the merchant
resources
gets paid
already.
fraud, waste, and we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars at scale across the US. This happens. And so to your point, what are we doing? We're creating a payment that is real time, that can be at a product level through SKU Pay. It's a real-time payment for a specific product. It's not a coupon. It's not an IOU. It is a completely new thing that hasn't existed until we created this patented technology called SKU Pay in the framework of what we've created, which is, again, where I was going. If you get under the hood of what our technical team and what we're building, it's powerful because it's not just couponing. It's healthcare payments, Medicare Advantage, HSA, FSA, all the things that need product restrictions within payment cards. It's commercial B2B
Payments
payments.
is actually the future, because if you look at crypto and blockchain, everything is moving over. I mean, realistically, these little green guys that we've been carrying around so long, they're just about as good as those coupons that my mom was cutting out these days, right? Like they're going away. They're more rare than ever. I don't even see people
Yep.
even keeping the change at the cash register. They always give it back. They don't even want it. So let's talk about the team. When
Yeah.
this was first birthed, who was it at the very beginning? It was you, a couple other guys. Talk to me about those very first founding parties, if we can cover that.
Four
And
of
why
us.
was it those parties?
So first of all, we had a deep love and respect as being friends and being advisors to projects together and just working together. We're all based here in the South Florida area. Jim Sampe, I just mentioned, former president of Valpak, deep coupon understanding. Myself, Kenny Douglas, who I just mentioned, who's our payments nerd and background in payments, and then our fourth
Kenny's
partner,
great,
Bob
man. I love that
Zicardo.
guy.
He's such a great guy. And Bob Zicardo, who had a sports marketing background, originally started his career in real estate development, but ended up getting involved in a company and bought a company that was doing promotional advertising within stadiums. So it was called Branded Tray, and they would go out there and they would market with the NFL, and they had partnerships with all the major league organizations, the NFL, the NBA, and they were doing advertising. And so he worked with a lot of the brands, Pepsi and Mondelez, and he understood agencies and brands and that promotional world, as did I from a different lens with entertainment. And Kenny understood payments and Jim understood couponing. And we said, okay, there's an opportunity to take that awful couponing IOU process that we just talked about and move it to a real-time payments world, because that's where the world is going. We understood that intuitively, just knowing technology. And there was this other element called blockchain, and there was this thing called blockchain and crypto technology. And there's lots of companies trying to run down the road of creating their own tokens and ICOs and all that craziness. And we said, we don't want to do anything like that because we don't believe that is actually valuable. What we believe is valuable is blockchain technology, but associated to the ledger and the traceability of transactions that we're going to create through our own payments product. And so that's been something that we've been thinking about since we started the company. That turned into this beautiful partnership that we have today with Hedera, which is the number one enterprise distributed ledger technology in the world, with partners like Google, FIS WorldPay, LG, and now Mondelez International, who joined their governing council through SKUX and is actually powering the first payment-based offer on Hedera's DLT through SKUX. So these are monumental things that haven't happened before with enterprise clients like Mondelez that we're powering, that is starting to fulfill the vision that we started this company with, Mike, that
I remember when it first started, it took me so long. I think I'd even invested one or two rounds before I started to get it. I think by the time I was in on the third round,
Yeah.
lots of dollars deep, I
The
still
aha
didn't
study.
really get. I just knew, man, everybody's so excited about this. And I kept, hearing payments, and I was fascinated with blockchain and crypto and what was going on there. But again, I
Yeah.
was still very new at that. And now I feel like I've got it. I'm almost a flag bearer, right? I've really got my head around it, and I understand it at a level where we're working with
Yeah.
some of the top agencies. Many of these agencies, we were on with a 30-year marketing agency, member of BA, that handles True Value. They handle, what is it, BMW, Ashley Furniture. Just, they have some great clientele. And being able to bring something like this that attaches to their advertising, attaches to their marketing campaigns, it's that major extension that sets these players apart in the industry. But they've got to get their head around attaching those eyeballs to that incentive that's going to get the transaction. Because advertising that isn't getting a transaction, you're not connecting it there, right? You're giving them the ability to do that, but it's not something that they've had before available. So they really have a responsibility to understand what you've built in order to kind of really be competitive in the marketplace, because you are changing the game.
Yeah, and you know what? You mentioned, the team, right? So, our CTO, Moshe Joshua, brilliant, one of the first guys in the world in blockchain, building blockchain systems, and Roberto Mayo, our chief enterprise architect. And then we've gone out and we've built this team of payments and retail expertise from our board and investors, the likes of Scott Sandlin from Walmart Financial Services and built Walmart Financial Services and was a 20 plus year executive at Walmart, to Deb Henretta, who is an investor and an advisor to SKUX and one of the most powerful women in the world in retail, former president and CEO of Asia of Procter and Gamble. You want to talk about the minds that we've been able to extract what works in coupons, what works in payments, what doesn't through these lenses, and leading that into the leadership team. Trishis Gearson,
Oh my gosh.
president of, she's
She's
a rock star.
unbelievable.
20 years MasterCard advisors, built a $4 billion business at MasterCard, and has a background in loyalty and patents in loyalty for Chase Sapphire and all these crazy
You can watch people on the Zoom calls. Once the mic is given to her, they all just kind of settle back and start taking notes.
yeah,
She is awesome.
she's dynamo. And she's brought in a team, and we've brought in a team of others that are right there with her. Beth Costa is a new member of our team. Beth Costa is, 9-year partner at Oliver Wyman, one of the most prestigious payments firms and retail firms in the country, and has a background in payments and retail and working with a lot of the top
Yeah.
in the country. I mean, you just go down the list of talent: Guy Berg and Greg Leonard, and and Tim Shar and Kip Marler, our chief operations officer. I mean, I can just keep going down the pedigree of talent at this company. It is not about me. I'm just like I'm happy to
Tell
be
me about
here.
the value because it's not always just the product, the valuation of the company. You have built a team that brings value into that company. You guys have gone from, kind of give me the milestones, just
Yeah.
leaping through kind of the valuation markers, and then we'll get into how did we prop this thing up in the very beginning. But let's just kind of take a look at that journey from the valuation side of things. It took certain efforts to get to that 10 mil, then the 50 mil, and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, high growth startups, right? We said, one of our early advisors, great, beautiful friend of mine, Bob Quintana, who well to
Hmm.
the BA ecosystem too. Him and I, team tech and timing. That hasn't changed. That's the three things that the core value here. It's all about the team. The technology's got to work and be scalable, and the timing is so critical. I think all three of those elements are in place with SKUX. It is why we've had the success we've had in terms of growing the business to where we are in terms of valuation. We started with a 10 million friends and family round. We raised our Series A, expanded Series A round of financing, and there's a lot more coming behind that, as you know. I don't talk about it, obviously in public settings, but there's a tremendous amount of capital and interest in this company and the future of where this company can go in terms of, where we are right now. I mean, I see so much potential for SKUX. I see a lot of work left for SKUX. So, you know me as I'm always
What a great
promoting something.
brand, though. It seems like all the great brands now have an X in them, right? Twitter is only X, but all the great stuff seems to have an X in it. I don't know if that was lucky or by design. And realistically, in the very beginning, I think the team is what you did best when you did it right. Like that's the part you got right best, which the product is what it is today because of it, because where you started, it's not really the same product that was at the very beginning. Like that Genesis was a much different, not a much different idea, but it wasn't what it is today. It's morphed because the team had the ability to continue to innovate into what is better and next.
Yeah, you're and it's so funny. I was just talking about this on another call. The foundation of what we set out to do is basically the same thing. Like we
Yeah.
have not changed from what we said day one on what we wanted to accomplish. The way we've done it has been a combination of the brightest minds in the world thinking about how to do something that, quite frankly, hasn't been done in the way that we're doing it.
Yeah, that's
And
actually a
that's
better way to put it because the mission is still exactly the same.
Yeah, we
But
had a vision to
yeah,
go do this
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but then when you lift up the hood to say, okay, how am I going to power a payment at an item level in all of the requirements that are needed from a merchant data perspective, from a brand traceability perspective, all these things, you realize why there hasn't been a SKUX.
Give me
There's been elements.
yeah, give me some gold here. Good conversation. But what I'd like to do is get a few things that people can kind of take away, right? So first off, what would you say is your biggest lesson in raising capital for a high tech startup like this? Good lesson and maybe a lesson that you don't want to repeat. Like the worst thing we ever did was try to do X. Give me the yin and the yang side of raising capital through this process.
Okay, so the great lesson has been communication to our investors. One of the things that I learned through some great
Yeah.
mentors through the capitalization process is investors really hate when you just call them up when you need money. You build
This is
relationships because
good.
anybody who invests in your company is a partner. They're not just a check. I'm an investor myself, so I think through this as mindset. As you know, Mike, we're investors, so we kind of think through it from an investor lens in what we're building, and we've taken on investment. If you take on an investor, you take on a partner, good, bad, or indifferent, whether the company succeeds or the company fails. Everyone's investing for an outcome, and so that partner is going to be there. I see a lot of young entrepreneurs. They think that they get a check and then they go forward and then, oh, I need another check. Then I call the investor. We've done a really good job of communicating to our investors, building relationships, talking all the time. We have had some core investors, guys like RJ Polano and the late Mike Theodore and others involved in the company that have put in sizable capital that literally are family. And I think that's the thing that a lot of entrepreneurs, at least the young entrepreneurs, miss, because when times are great, everybody wants to invest in your company. When you go through hardships and things that you didn't expect, that's when you need that support more than ever. So we've done a fantastic job of looking at the investor base as a partner to SKUX. I'd say the thing that
You know what?
we need to
You just gave me a great idea. I love that. I even wrote it down. I made a little phrase out of it. Investors invest more and more often with better communication
yeah,
because that's what you
stop.
did great. You kept
Yeah,
them in the loop. When you go dark, it creates concern. Everything could be great, but
yeah.
their imagination starts to run away and they think the worst, right? So you did a great
I haven't
job.
heard from those guys in a long time. What are they doing?
Are
Yeah.
they in business still? No, they're in Mexico on the beach, right?
Oh, no, yeah.
And
Yeah.
another little thing that could be very valuable for business owners if they look at their customer as an investor and provide an update almost like a company would back to an investor. Here's where we are, here's what we're doing, here's where we're going, here's some of the accomplishments.
Yeah.
That framework is a valuable framework even back to a customer on a routine basis.
That's so true,
Um,
Mike.
I'm
You know what? Something else here, and this is one of my favorite quotes. People will forget, they will often forget what you say. They will always remember how you made them feel. A lot of us have heard that quote before. It's one of my life anthems. I think it's less about what you say. It's more about who you are and how you make people feel. What is your energy? What is your intention? From a communication perspective, now I'm going to get psychological. 7% of communication is verbal. Verbal. That means 93% of communication is not even what's coming out of your mouth. I think people miss that, is that it is so important for you as a leader. Forget investment. You as a leader, you are responsible for the energy that you create when you walk into a room. I don't care if you're the CEO, I don't care if you're an account manager. You can own that because that is in your control. And with investment, especially, look, we had a PowerPoint, we had an idea when we went out to raise capital. There's huge risk in this company. We've de-risked it over time, but when you're building for something great, there's always risk. Your job is to convince the person that's across from you that you believe in this idea, that you are willing to bleed for this idea, that no matter what happens, come hell or high water, that you are the guy that will figure it out, or the girl that will figure it out, and you will pivot, you will shift, you will navigate, you will do what is necessary to take this company over the goal line to give them a return. That is what investors invest in. So anything other than that, not acceptable. That's my mindset. And we've done a good job of putting those types of people around the table here at SKUX that really believe in what we're doing. And so the conviction comes across. And so that's what I look for when I look at companies. And I've invested in stuff that it's like, man, I don't know what this even is under the hood. I love the idea, but man, that guy, that guy is amazing. And I think with early stage startups, you're always betting on the horse, on the people that are behind that, right?
Well,
As
if you even take what you just said and you compare an early stage startup like SKUX in the very beginning to Elon Musk right now, they're still investing in Elon. They
Isn't that
may
crazy?
love the car, they may love the rocket. They're still investing in him because everything he touches turns to gold.
Isn't
And
that
he
crazy?
doesn't quit and he works. I mean, he puts the work. They are investing in his ability to lead and navigate and innovate. He is the driving force. You take him out of it, it's not
Yeah.
about the product. It's about what you just said. So it's not that that is only important in the beginning. It's always important.
Yeah. And I think the definition of a startup, I was having this conversation the other day. I mean, we're trying to lose the term startup because we're not in that mode. We're in growing up, we're in growth mode. But you have companies that are, 5, 6, 7 billion dollar generating companies and higher that are still considered startups today, right? Like startup is a long 10-year journey in some cases, right? Series A, B, C, D, you start running out of letters. Like, so to what your point was, right? Like it never stops, but I think the mentality is really entrepreneurship DNA. You either have that mentality and the ability to just go all in on something, or you don't. And that's okay. Like it's just self-awareness. I've always been built that way. If I believe in something, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to stand by my conviction, right or wrong. I'm going to stand by it. And I think those are the core tenets of, really successful entrepreneurship in knowing kind of your strengths and weaknesses, surrounding yourselves with people that compensate for the areas that you don't have strength in. I think that's one of the things. Self-awareness is important. We're not all the best at everything, right?
Yeah.
Elon Musk is a very rare human. Okay, like that guy is, and others like him have just this ability to have so many different areas of the brain to be excellent at. But not everyone has that same ability. So I think other leaders and leaders like myself and others, our jobs are to surround ourselves with people that have experience or talent in areas where we don't,
Yeah.
and empower them to lead and not try to steal the show.
Yeah.
Just, hey, I brought you in here because you're really good at this, and I'll support you. What do you need from me? Take the baton and run with it. That's that, fostering that kind of culture is what is important to grow.
So this is fantastic. The investors invest more and more often with better communication. So thank you for that on the positive side. But on the negative side, what was maybe one of the hardest lessons that you guys learned as you were raising capital? Because right now, raising capital, creating funds, attracting the individuals that want to get involved to help you grow your business from a monetary standpoint is wildly important. I mean, it's one of the most common topics that we deal with at Board of Advisors. What was one of the worst things that you had to suffer through just as part of the learning process, but you don't want to repeat?
On the capital front, we've been very blessed because of that community that we built. So we've always had support on the investment we've needed to grow in the milestones that we've had. That continues. I think one of the challenges, one of the lessons that we've learned, building a platform that can be so disruptive in so many different areas. You start with this idea, and you build capital to start creating the foundation of it. You start to build in, with us, integrations into payment networks, right? And then it starts to become real, and you start to drive some transactions, and you're testing, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is working. And then the world is your oyster. And that is not good, because you cannot do everything. And so focus of, we're only going to do this to achieve this. Even though we can do this, this, and this, we're going to say no to this, and this, because we're only going to do this because this is what we need to achieve that next step on the journey. That has been an exercise that we've had to go through that's been painful, because there is so much opportunity with what we can do with this platform. And so we've had to balance Utopiaville, North Starville of where we want to go, to very tactical today, reoccurring revenue generation to achieve a milestone of X so that we can go down the journey to get to the North Star. You can't just go from here to the North Star. And I think I'm guilty of that mindset many times, because I am a visionary guy. I see where we're going. I know how big this can be. But you got to step back from that, and you've got to assess, okay, what is working, what's not working, what do I need to do right now to achieve this next milestone on the journey? That's not unique to SKUX. That's any business. I know I'm preaching to the choir for anyone who's ever built a business, but I think in our world, it's probably even a little more complicated because it's payments, and payments is hard. And there's so much connectivity, whether it's a bank or a card network or a program manager or the offer engine or finance or compliance. You could go through so many different subjects. And so you have to be very focused on what your outcome is that you're trying to achieve for that next milestone.
Which is why I like what you built was the container. Like, you built the mechanism that creates the ability for value to transfer in a way. And then, so like, I think of it kind of as a railroad car, or even just a container of value. A company can take their value, lock it into something like Hedera, put the Hedera in your container, and fire it off across the system, right? Like, you guys did what I feel is probably the best play in the game without necessarily having to become the actual digital asset. So what I wrote down here when you were saying that, relevant to not getting distracted with opportunity, a no to all the opportunities that come along is really a big yes to the original mission.
Yep.
Because if we don't define that mission in the very beginning, you're going to become distracted and diluted with the opportunities that come along the way. The more competent you get, the more opportunities pop up, and those are the things that will kill the mission if you don't even really define the mission.
It's so true. When you're starting out in your career, when you're, graduating high school or going to college for the first time or getting your first job, you are the person that's always reaching out to everyone else to say, can you make this introduction? Here's my service, blah, blah, blah. And you're on that end of it. When you have success, some success, large success, other people start reaching out to you. That's when the pendulum switches. you have to get really good at saying no when that happens. And that's the challenge for a lot of people, is that, yes, yes, yes is a slow death. And so I think, having a good team around you, being able to say no to certain opportunities, even though they look great, but they're just not aligned to where we are right now. I mean, product is so important on that. We brought in an amazing product manager at SKUX late in the game, right? I mean, I'm talking only like the last year or so, because we had the foundation built in terms of the technology application for digital payments, and then also, where we were going with SKU Pay. But it's that next layer of taking all this great tech that's like a spaghetti noodle box and really packaging it in a way that can be digestible over a product roadmap and timeline that can be aligned with a customer that you're selling to's needs and wants. That's the art of the game, right? Where we are in that journey. So that's what's exciting for me, is we have those people in place, we have those processes in place that are becoming better every day, because of the great talent that's here at the
Yeah.
company. And I think that's the key.
Can we talk valuation, or is that something? Is that a?
It's north of nine figures.
I like that.
What's that?
I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty
We're
good when you start at no figures.
yeah,
No figures to
exactly.
north of nine figures. That's pretty
Yeah,
good. Tell me
yeah, we're
about how did board of advisors play a role in that? What were you think?
Mike, what you built with Board of Advisors is a community of like-minded individuals that are supportive of each other's goals, and they can be there through the hard times and the great times. We would not have SKUX without BA, period. SKUX's investors came out of that room, period. I think for people who are evaluating joining BA or evaluating joining a mastermind in general, they need to understand what it can be for their life. It is a group of people who are there to support you achieve your vision and goal. It's not a networking event. I think that's the misconception, is people think, oh, you mean that BA, that networking event where everybody goes to and hangs out once a, no, that's not what BA, that's not what it's supposed to be. What it was for me was an introduction to individuals like RJ Polano or Mike Theodore, or go down the list of incredible people like yourself, that we've been able to have unbelievable conversations. We've been able to solve problems, get perspective from people that have been in places you haven't been when you run into tough journeys and parts of the way. Like, that's what that has been for us. So yeah, BA has been amazing, partner and supporter of SKUX. Obviously, the individuals in the room. I would encourage anyone who is evaluating, again, joining BA or a mastermind in general, like, it'll make a significant difference in your life. So
And from a culture perspective, what is something that you think is probably either at BA, in your company? What is something that you guys stand for as a culture principle that you would say others should really consider defining and enforcing? Because at the leadership level, there's got to be a culture defined and then enforced in order for things to work, right? So what is it that you guys either implement? What did you admire maybe about BA, or what was it maybe something that you guys decided to put into your own business there at SKUX?
yeah, and I mean, I think we strive to be a transparent culture. I mean, we're in payments. Our whole mission is to provide transparency and ROI for companies that are doing digital payments, right? So our product's transparent. So we as a leadership team need to be transparent to our employees and to our partners. And that's something that I feel strongly about. And that's something that we have to continue to infect the organization with as it grows, and bring in people, because culture is lots of articles on culture. Culture changes. Culture is what you do today and tomorrow. You have rough times in your company. You have great times in the company. How do you show up and define the culture as the leader will create the culture around you, right?
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize they're in a position of power. With great power comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You are the person that is responsible for that culture. And if you're the CEO of the company, it's on you, right? And so I think that it's not about blaming, it's about taking ownership. If your culture is great, continue to be that individual that leads by example. If your culture is not great, that's okay. Make a decision to be that leader that leads by example. Your culture will get better. For me personally, I've created this company with some great partners to do something that hasn't been done, to transform the world. And when I say that transform the world, I mean our product absolutely has the ability to transform areas of finance and be a major, major player in fintech like we've been talking about. But in 100 years or 1,000 years, my personal belief is none of that will matter at all. So I've created this company as a conduit to be able to really transform the world and do that through organizations, nonprofits. Our family is involved in a lot of mission work that we've been so passionate about with my wife and my mother-in-law and other things, some of which we don't even talk about, that will be an output of SKUX. And so that's my personal mission, is to create legacy, generational changing wealth so they can affect lives of others around us, starting with our families and our friends and the people in our communities. That's what we're building this for, right? So it's crazy, man. I'm so inspired and so passionate about where we are and blessed to have the opportunity that we have and to have the trust and support of so many people who have chosen to take this crazy wild ride called SKUX that still has a ton of work to do. Like it's it's not done by any means.
I mean, I see it in the viability stage, right? It's become real, and
It's real.
It's
Yeah.
viable, and it's getting the right attention of players like Visa.
Oh,
But it's
no
got to
doubt.
go through that growth into scalability, where viability has to cross the chasm of stabilization, product delivery, support, and then bang, we can move into scalability, right? I think it'd be a great idea for us to do an article or a cover on the magazine relevant to SKUX. We've got a couple of great editions that have come out, but I think this might be something that tells the story of not only SKUX, but the fertile ground that Board of Advisors has for companies that really have the mindset to grow. There's a very short-term transactional mindset that many times people have in business where, that's great, but it's temporary. I think you guys took the exact right approach. How do we come in, align with the right players, the right relationships, build the right product, and then recruit the right dollars to fund the mission? You did well. Well played. Well played. If it was a chess game, you probably would have won, and you would have won big. Before we jump off, anything that you want to leave the listeners with? Is there somewhere that they can maybe go to check out more about SKUX other than SKUX.io or anything else?
No, check out our website. That's the best place right now. We're also on LinkedIn. Check out SKUX on LinkedIn. A lot of the incentives and payments that we power, like we're in the background. So we power them on behalf of our partners, whether it's the Mondelez Internationals of the world or the Reynolds Consumer Product Brands or many of the other global brands that we work with. So we're in the background powering that payment experience. But we got a lot of news that is coming, as you know, Mike, down the pipe here. So check out our website, some press release announcements, some leadership announcements, just all kinds of cool stuff going on. And we're having fun.
Awesome. Love seeing you guys do what you did, watching you grow. It was a great experience the other night, too, just to see everybody in person at the little cookout. Let's get you back on here in a few months, see where we're at. I appreciate your time today. Thank you, Bobby, founder of SKUX, SKUX.io. Ladies and gentlemen, Board of Advisor podcast. If you want to check out the magazine, bamag.com. If you want to be a member, bamember.com. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.